This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carannante.
Welcome to the Yanks Go Yard podcast. I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carannante. There goes a thumbs up on the screen for some reason. We knew the Yankees had a surprise roster shuffle planned this week, but do they have another one in their bones? Opening day is Thursday. Yesterday they set the bullpen, and I was like, is the bullpen really set? That's probably not set, right? And it wasn't. Ryan Yarbrough joins the team on Monday morning. It's a major league contract. He'll be a long man. He'll be a swing man. That's some valuable rotation depth for a team that needs it, even though he did not make a single start last year. He's pretty much a full-time reliever at this point, but he can take on bulk either way. Who loses their spot for Yarbrough? Brent Hedrick? Yerry De Los Santos? We got to talk about it. We got to speculate because we are not getting this roster until the deadline. That much I can guarantee you, because I still think the Yankees have a bench move left in them, and that's because everyone's screaming about it. So I got a reason to think that. One player moving up the depth chart in the wake of Dom Smith opting out. One player significantly moving down, someone that we've long projected will join the team. It now kind of feels like a long shot. Pablo Reyes went deep again today. Who is surprised? Plus a heartwarming roster moment, a hilarious Saturday blown lead, and something you might have missed in the wake of that game that was horrific. You don't want to remember that fake game, but there was a moment from the middle part that could have bearing on this season. Thomas Carannante, a lot to get to. 2 o'clock Eastern on a Monday and on a Thursday again. And then make sure to tune in next Monday. Thursday's opening day. This podcast conveniently at 2 o'clock, and the game is at 3 o'clock. That's actually the best time for a podcast ever, people are saying. But Monday, we're going to have a special guest in my place. If you are not subscribed, if you're joining us for the first time, I recommend subscribing now on YouTube, on audio platforms. It's a good time to get in on the Yanks Go Yard podcast. Thomas Carannante, welcome to the show. We are hoping, I think last show we said we hope we learn nothing between the two shows, so that because it would only be bad news, but there's been a moderate amount of actual genuine change and churn, and not in a bad way. We learned about optimized rosters and what the Yankees plan to do, and we're still waiting on the big kahuna move, I would say, even though it's not going to be that big, but it could still happen from an offensive standpoint.
Where's it coming from? That's all I want to know. A lot of moves the Yankees made this weekend, and things are coming into focus. I don't think anything's necessarily surprising. They signed Ryan Yarbrough this morning after the Blue Jays let him go, adding a little bit more to the bullpen picture. I don't think that solves their lefty bullpen problem, because they still need like another lefty specialist, and Yarbrough seems like a long man, multi-inning guy who's going to eat garbage innings, or maybe piggyback a starter. I don't know, but it doesn't help them in high leverage, I guess. That's
the thing. If you are looking for an alternative, this is why I'm confused. And we'll start with Yarbrough for good reason, because it's today's news. But they've got Tim Hill, right? They've got a guy who sits in the high 80s, low 90s, and induces ground balls. You need a strong defense behind him. But we all love Tim Hill. Then they've got a guy in Brent Hedrick who they've been stretching out, and he had some dips on his fastball velocity, struggled in the middle of spring, got it back with 2 clean innings against the Tigers the other day. And I'm not sure what he is, but I know he's a higher velo lefty arm than Tim Hill. He's a different look. I'm not ready to put him in high leverage now, but I at least know, okay, you got 2 lefties. You got Hill, the slow burner, worm burner, grounder inducer. And then you've got Hedrick, who's this guy who's got an effective fastball, a rising fastball at the top of the zone, and maybe the Yankees pitching lab could do something with him. Now you bring in Yarbrough. Are you going to carry all 3? Is Yarbrough replacing Yerry De Los Santos, who I think we were all sort of aligned on was a confusing option for them to have protected on the 40-man, and felt like, okay, opening day roster by default, he's on the 40-man, we're going to carry him, but it's fine. Yoendris Gomez looked a lot more appealing as spring went on. Yeah. He's still carrying a spring shutout, so I'm not quibbling with that. But are you going to replace De Los Santos with Ryan Yarbrough and carry 3 lefties? And 1 long man and 1 middle man and 1 short man who kind of looks like the long man? Or are you going to drop Hedrick, as has been speculated, and then keep De Los Santos, or upgrade on him too? I definitely like getting the bona fide arm we understand in the bullpen. Yarbrough is a guy who bedeviled us for years with Tampa, and the Dodgers picked him up in 2023, and he was on the world champions roster last year. Like, teams with smart pitch shaping tech believe in Ryan Yarbrough, and Yarbrough said that he chose the Yankees over other teams because he believes in their lab and what they're able to do for pitchers. So
nice.
You love to see that, but yeah, are they carrying 3 lefties, 2 of whom are very similar, but one of whom has more durability? Or are we still going to make an upgrade on Yeri De Los Santos, or is he part of this mix? I don't know. And this answers nothing.
I don't know a lot of stuff. So
it's good to say on a podcast.
Sorry guys. I don't know a lot, but you look at this roster and you look at the current 40-man right now based on what the Yankees website says, right? Clayton Beeter is going to have to start the year on the IL. Same with JD Brubaker. Same with Jake Cousins, right? He's not built up.
Yeah, and Beeter is going to be gone a while, they said, over the weekend, which is not going to surprise
Beeter could be 60-day, freeing up another spot, right?
Haven't heard him mentioned in forever since he showed up to camp and couldn't throw. He's got to be 60-day, in my opinion.
They already moved Garrett Cole and Luis Heel to the 60-day, so that freed up 2 spots, but you still have Scott F. Ross, who, I mean, doesn't exist, in my opinion. Ian Hamilton's hitting the IL. Jonathan Loaizaga is probably going on the 60-day. And I think that is it. That looks to be it. So I don't know if you put somebody on the 10-day IL or 15-day IL, that doesn't free up a roster spot, does it?
No, I mean, you can move someone obviously from the 40 to the active, but you're not getting what you need.
So I guess the other option is they can option Fernando Cruz if they don't feel like he's ready. I know he's had a bit of a rough spring. I don't know if he's turned it around considerably enough at this point to justify a role in the bullpen. But it seems like you said, I think beyond Yarbrough, there could be another external move coming for the pitching staff. Mm-hmm. Right now, you're looking at the rotation of Fried, Rodon, Stroman, Warren, and Carlos Carrasco. And you're going to need a 6th starter in, I guess, Yoendris Gomez in the event you need someone to piggyback, eat innings, or provide a spot start here and there. So very much unresolved. I know that we probably won't know until, 2 hours before opening day. The Yankees usually don't announce their opening day roster until right before the buzzer, but there's a lot going on here and there's a lot unanswered, and it looks like some of it has come into focus, and I think it has, but for the most part, with what the external, moves are sounding like, or what insiders are speculating at this point, there could be more on the way, and that could mean, people get chopped off, people get optioned or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I'm still intrigued by who this bat is going to be. I guess we can now get into Oswald Peraza, right? Sounds like he's done.
Crazy.
Another wasted asset, folks. Talked about it for 2 years. Now it's happening, but everyone already forgot about it at this point.
I mean, this is the craziest development, though, just because, it's not crazy if you're objective, if you're someone who's not a fan, you have not been in the community, you do not watch Yankees games, you have no preconceived notions of Oswald Peraza, and someone was like, hey, these 2 guys were in competition for the 3rd base role to start the year. Here are their numbers. And you would see Peraza, who hit, ended up in the 190s, and he got 47 at-bats. He got ample opportunity. He's hitting 170 in spring with a 455 OPS. They gave him one last chance to make a statement with no options remaining. Like, this is literally put up or shut up. And people were penciling him onto the opening day roster in a platoon role because we knew that, either he makes the roster or this asset is as devalued as possible because he's gone. So, and we know you can't trade him because you've tried to already, and you've tried to for years. So you're going to try to trade him one more time at the buzzer. Everyone knows you're desperate. They're not going to give you anything. So you're going to end up DFAing him. So the reason he was penciled onto the roster is just a matter of semantics. He competed for the role and he didn't win it. He didn't play well. And not only did he not play well, he didn't distinguish himself in any capacity. But even up to last week, even when Dom Smith opted out, we were saying, okay, Cabrera, Peraza, that's the platoon. We all know that one of those guys will be on the bench every day and one of them will be starting. And it looks like Pablo Reyes has moved ahead of Dom Smith because Dom Smith is a lefty. Dom Smith doesn't offer defensive versatility or really defense at all. And Reyes is having a strong spring, and he's not the most intriguing veteran in the world. And there's a chance that the curtain's up on opening day and he's providing you not much, but he's a righty. He's a major league veteran righty instead of Peraza. He has some form of track record instead of just prospect pedigree. So we can start penciling him onto the bench, I think, especially after Dom Smith leaves. But what we didn't do was take the next step and say, not only does he get penciled onto the bench, but he switched places with Peraza on the depth chart. Pablo Reyes, who homered today, carrying him is pretty much a guarantee at this point. There's only one backup outfielder on the roster, and it's Trent Grisham. So if they are going to get this mysterious right-handed bat, then it should probably be somebody who plays we got to assume they carry Peraza, and then it's got to be someone else who can handle the outfield. I know they wish they could get Trace Thompson, who's been at Red Sox camp and has 6 homers this spring. He is definitely 34. He is definitely a generic insert, he's Klay Thompson's brother, but he's also just sort of an insert guy who can fill role. I don't think anybody's being fooled by Trace Thompson's spring being like the Red Sox unlocked another guy, but he's the header image of the Joel Sherman piece on the Yankees acquiring a right-handed batter. That's why I'm just sort of tipping my cap and saying, I see that picture.
But don't the Red Sox might have to keep him though, because Wilyer Abreu was like non-existent and Yoshida starting the year. I know they weren't ever going to use him in the outfield anyway, but he's starting the year at AAA.
According to Chris Cotillo, Trace Thompson did not make the opening day roster.
Oh, cool. There we go.
This was yesterday evening. So like
that sounds like.
But again, he goes down to AAA. He's not cut. He's not DFA.
Oh, did he accepted an assignment?
According to what I'm seeing for now.
Apparently he did.
Apparently, we don't know, but that's what we're seeing at this moment.
Okay.
Buddy Kennedy of the Phillies, again, the options are relatively limited. Buddy Kennedy is a guy who was a Diamondbacks prospect, is like a grit grinder utility guy. Millville High School, Mike Trout, DNA, same high school. Does that matter? Probably not. Had a good power spring, hit 3 bombs, but hit 154. He's not making the Phillies. They're going to try to trade him, but we'll DFA him if they have to. So interesting. But again, does that cover the outfield? Or are we just throwing a body in the outfield at that point? What we need is competent defense. And, it doesn't have to be a huge power guy. It just has to be a dependable at-bat that you can insert, who can reliably cover whatever position they're given. Sounds like Caleb Durbin, who is also demoted at Brewers camp, but I digress. I don't know how high anyone's hope should be, but I do think after weeks of just putting Peraza into the final product, that now we have to realize, like, okay, it's actually likelier than not that he's not making it and that maybe they've already written him off and they have to do some scrambling here. That's why I think, will there be another surprise? I mean, it's not even a question. There will be. What caliber of surprise will it be? That's what we don't know.
Yeah, and then the other problem with maybe not carrying Peraza is what if somebody gets injured in the infield, then what are you going to do? It puts you in a bind. Like if Jazz gets hurt and you need to move either Peraza or Cabrera to second base, you wouldn't be able to do that if you take Peraza off the roster. But I mean, look, at the end of the day, you can't just carry people for positional versatility, right? You have to carry people based on production. Oswald Peraza, stupid me. I was hopeful. I really was. I thought that at least there would be a semblance of something in there, but this is the encapsulation of how the Yankees failed time and time again with prospects. And it's two-pronged, right? Like, is this mostly Oswald Peraza's fault? Absolutely. Like, he's been given opportunity after opportunity the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. Injuries, underperformance, just not delivering has completely described and characterized his last couple of years. At the same time, though, he came on in 2022 and, kind of did what was expected of him as someone making his major league debut. He was a sound defender. He had some pop in his bat and he was progressing the right way. And then the Yankees essentially just gave the job to Anthony Volpe. And understandably, that took, that took momentum away from Peraza, which was not fair for a developing young player. But also it seems to me that whatever personalities the Yankees draft, develop, acquire via trade, sign in free agency. They don't possess that edge to essentially say, oh, all right, you're gonna put me in this position. I'll raise you one. Here comes play that is going to be undeniable that you're not going to be able to ignore.
He started a playoff game, and that's what we were looking for from him. Okay, take the reins. Like, he's starting in the ALCS. His major league debut was a pinch hitting opportunity in the 9th inning of like a 30-1 loss in Tampa Bay. Embarrassing. And so you want to see somebody who's a top prospect respond to that. And then when they're given a playoff opportunity, say, you disrespected me in my debut. You're not giving me the chance. This isn't the window I was promised. And here I go. I'm going to take it and run with it. And he did the exact opposite, including the next spring.
And look, like I'm not criticizing that he was unable to do that. I think a lot of people put in that position would not be able to deliver under those circumstances. It's a lot of pressure to play in New York. It's just unpleasant when it seems like your employer is disrespecting you and the motivation goes away. And at the end of the day, you're, quote, playing for yourself, you're working for yourself. But when it feels like everything's kind of just stacked against you for relatively no reason, when there was a path cleared and there was an ability for the Yankees to do a multitude of things, right? He could have played a different position. They could have got rid of Gleyber Torres. He could have played second base. He could have been roving into the third base mix over the last, year or two. He could have been traded when he was a top 5 prospect. The Yankees had the ability to trade him when he had that prestige attached to him, and they opted to hold on to him until he's now nothing. He is now nothing. He is worse than a journeyman veteran looking for his 14th team. So this is a Yankees problem of their own doing. So I blame them first and foremost, but it's just upsetting that Peraza wasn't able to, I guess, maybe dig deeper, because you see all of these other guys now responding in full, like Austin Wells, incredible spring, Ben Rice, incredible spring, Oswaldo Cabrera rebounded after the early struggles. So I know they're all in a little bit of a different position, but to like some extent, like Wells was put in a similar position as Peraza, right? Like he was playing better than Jose Trevino at the beginning of the year. Or at least his bat looked like it was playing better, and the Yankees didn't reward him with more playing time. And then it took an injury for him to get in the mix and say, now I'm taking over this role. This is mine. Mm-hmm. Cabrera has been thrown around to every position, every which way. Hasn't affected his defense, hasn't affected his ability to hit in the clutch. Ben Rice, got just tossed aside the second he went cold and the Yankees had another solution. He's come back in full force and has kind of proven that he's going to be the DH replacement for Giancarlo Stanton this year. So night and day compared to what Peraza has been doing. So it's definitely upsetting, but to me, it's just asset mismanagement by the Yankees. And it's sad to talk about it because obviously this is a man's career. And at the very least right now, he's either going to be the last guy on the bench, not getting any reps, or getting such infrequent reps that it's not improving his play, or he's just going to get traded for nothing to nowhere and then become roster fodder until the end of time. So if the Yankees had managed their assets better, then great. I mean, look, I said 3 weeks ago that I thought there was a shot Pablo Reyes could make this roster, given his experience in the AL East and the fact that he's an additional outfielder, and the fact that he is 2 years removed from like a pretty productive 90-something game stint, which I think should be valued by a major league team. So here we are. I'm thinking that could be more of the reality at this point. But now you're sitting here wondering what the infield's going to look like and what that bat is. The bottom line is that I think if the Yankees are going to say we're going with Pablo Reyes over Oswald Peraza or whatever it is, they need to get another third baseman here.
Yeah, and it depends. Like, where does Pablo Reyes go when he needs to play the outfield? Do we trust him out there? Maybe. I mean, it's imperfect roster.
DH Judge those days, he could play right field. Like, that's where his position comfortability is. I don't know. Cabrera could do the same thing, though, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's imperfect to say the least. Like, it's we're being generous by saying imperfect roster construction. But here we are. This is where it's March 24th. The season starts in 3 days. So here's where we're at.
So ridiculous.
The Peraza Band-Aid has to be taken, ripped off.
Oh, yeah, Stanton's got to be going on the 60-day too, right?
Oh, no, I think he's going to be back in mid-April. Yeah, no, put him on the 60-day. Well, we're never going
to
again.
Another roster spot will be able to free up. So who knows, man? Who knows?
It is wild, though, that like Ben Rice replacing Stanton a couple weeks ago was like the laughable, like, yeah, okay, I mean, I hope so, but what else you got? And now it's like, all right, I mean, he's jacked now. Like, that just is what's happening. Like, we are just going to pencil in a rookie.
Oh, he's
in there.
Jacked.
I mean, yeah. I'm excited. And the craziest part is
I love Ben Rice.
The worst part is I'm excited by that.
Grisham's been hitting well. I mean, again, I know spring doesn't matter. Dominguez, you want to talk about another guy who's kind of been a bit disrespected in a sense and hasn't had a lane carved out. I know this spring they carved out a lane for him, but they allowed Peraza to play essentially just as much as Dominguez, and Dominguez has roaring back, 276 average, 794 OPS, and I know that doesn't sound great, but like from where he started off, the fact like his last 2 weeks have been tremendous.
Yeah, he's done everything asked of him. And there was a point in this spring when we were talking about, it shows you, I mean, does spring training matter? I mean, it fuels 30 narratives, and narratives change every week over week. So it's kind of amazing in that capacity. But the Dominguez can't play left, and also Dominguez can't hit. And what is Dominguez? I have Dominguez prospect fatigue has now given way to the realization that he got in a rhythm. He figured it out. And Jose Altuve looks worse than he does in left field. And Dominguez hasn't really had a left field gaffe in a couple of weeks now. What was that? March 4th, 5th that we were last talking about?
Early on, yeah.
So he certainly looks much improved. And again, he's not going to be perfect out there, but if he can hit the way he's hit and he can play a representative defense, then I will take that. Yeah. And he is going to finish in the top 3 of rookie of the year. If he can do that in a regular season, he is 22 years old. Yes.
At Peraza's final numbers, just so we know, 20 games, 47 at bats, 170 average, 455 OPS. He has 8 hits, 0 home runs, one of which was a double. He's driven in 2 runs, struck out 12 times, stolen 1 base, got caught stealing twice. So, yeah, no. Well, answer is no.
He's playing against the Mets right now, so he has a chance to further lower those statistics. We'll see. In heartwarming news, the Yankees did make probably the most obvious roster decision of the month, especially of the week. Over the weekend, and gave JC Escarra the backup catcher role. This is an Uber driver, an independent league baseball player, amazing. A substitute, someone who has gone from the lowest and barely like unaffiliated baseball, barely professional baseball, who the Yankees discovered, turned into a catcher. He wasn't even a full-time catcher before the Yankees got their hands on him, and they were able to mold him into something. Offensively, he has shined this spring. Defensively, improving every day, night and day for the people who saw him in the Orioles system, apparently. And Aaron Boone, he tried the cute trick of like, well, it's a numbers game, and it's a tough decision for us, and obviously we got a lot of catching depth. He never really put the twist in there. He was just kind of like, yeah, I said all that stuff, and that's a lie. You're going to be on the roster. Old man take. Escarra called Aaron Boone. He said, thank you, brother, after he got the news. I don't love having a manager of the players called brother. Maybe we get a little more formal with the manager. But I loved everything about the video, the experience, and most importantly, the decision. It had to happen. And I mean, Jose Trevino, we talked about in the last show, shout out to him. Got his extension locked down in Cincinnati for a little bit. Backup catcher. What's the going rate? What do they get paid? Who knows? He may have reset the market. He's commensurate with the market at least. But Escarra has shown you this spring that all of a sudden the backup reps behind Austin Wells, the offensive ceiling has risen significantly. This is a 29-year-old rookie, right? This is somebody who was on nobody's radar after 2019 in Frederick, Maryland. And after he came back and tried to, carve out a niche at the Orioles AAA team post-pandemic and had a 673 OPS in 58 games in 2021. Didn't play affiliated ball between 21 and 24, but not only made himself an option for the Yankees after they signed him at independent ball, but made himself the only option, an undeniable option this spring. And when I see him in the lineup, I don't think automatic out or defensive specialist. I think they've greatly increased the upside of that position.
I think so too, and I doubted it. I think everybody rightfully doubted it just for how it was lining up, right? It was you get rid of all your because remember they traded Carlos Narvaez to the Red Sox. They traded Jose Trevino to the Reds. I think maybe trading Trevino was smart. Trading Narvaez was like, all right, what are you doing? But they had confidence in this plan working. On when looking at it, though, as an average fan who didn't know much about JC Escobar, because we never really saw him play, we're like, this is the 28-year-old guy who's never stepped foot in MLB is now going to be the backup catcher to Austin Wells, who is probably going to need to be maybe managed a little bit more in terms of his workload this time around, knowing that he kind of wore down at the end of last season because of the catching duties caught up to him at the end. But man, that FaceTime to his mom almost got me. I'm not one to, shed tears, but that was a really good one. And yeah, the fact that he's responded in full force again, spring training does not matter in the grand scheme of things. It matters for a man who was driving Ubers months ago and was making $800 a month playing indie ball. He comes around, he bats .320 with an .898 OPS, 3 homers, 8 RBIs. That spring training performance matters for that man competing for a backup spot. So yes, while we don't necessarily look at Jazz Chisholm's numbers early on, we don't look at Anthony Volpe's numbers early on and say, well, these guys got to turn it around. Like we're not doing that. We are keeping an eye on them though, because it's at one point it's like, all right, they should maybe get a little bit warmed up before the start of the season. You got to look at all this with perspective, and the fact that Escara had literally responded to exactly what he was asked to do. The Yankees left this job open for him to compete with Alex Jackson. He took it and ran with it. It's now his. And I guess I would have been confident that it might have been easier for them to find a backup catcher at this point rather than, I would say, an impact right-handed bat or someone who could play third, or at least someone versatile who could be a right-handed bat. But I'm glad that the backup catcher situation worked itself out from a spring training lens, because A, it's one less issue you have to worry about going into the season, and B, it provides a little bit of excitement here, right? Like, kid with a chip on his shoulder, nearly quit baseball, now has worked his way to the pinnacle, you would say, in the New York Yankees in terms of, people's expectations and stuff like that when looking at the grander lens of it. So I'm excited to see what he could do. Obviously helps that he's got a lefty swing. I like the way that it looks. I think he's a talented player. If they found a diamond in the rough here, then awesome. I'm not expecting much from him though, because once again, when you transition to regular season play, it's a completely different animal. But if he could just hold his own and keep it together, I mean, look how like not great Jose Trevino was over the last couple of years, right? He played in, I think, a combined like 125 games. He dealt with injury. He just wasn't able to hit the ball. The shoulder issues caught up to him and affected his defense. So like, if Escara is like a little bit better than that and like can put a charge into a few and can give Wells days off and not compromise the Yankees defensively, then this is a success. And I'm happy that his entire family is thrilled, because that was an amazing moment.
Yeah, I'm glad they went and doubled up the post too, showed us all sides, because it was definitely a moment I wanted to live in, a reminder that we say all the time on this show that spring training doesn't matter. And obviously that is correct, right? You can't carry those numbers into the regular season. You can usually not even carry the momentum into the regular season. Totally different environment. But spring training definitely matters to some people, to JC Escara, to the people who are fighting and tooth and nail and clawing it out to make their way onto a major league roster. And it was, it's the dream. He said in the video call, the FaceTime with his mom. But at a certain point, the dream, when you're that far away, starts to feel a little bit foolish, right? And you're just sort of saying, okay, I mean, obviously my dream is to make the major leagues, right? But I need something more tangible than that. How do I deal with what's right in front of me when my dream is so far off, right? My dream is, I'm not even, tied to a major league team right now. The last time I was there, I didn't perform well. And to even get on the radars of these teams, I need to hit, X, Y, Z benchmarks, my new roster, right? The dream is it goes from so unattainable 2 years ago to being fulfilled because of, he put himself in position last year right? If he hits this well, but he's not on the 40-man, he's not protected, and he's nowhere close, then you could do whatever you want in spring training. You're not getting that opportunity. He set himself up last year, and then he made this month matter. You know, if he comes in and hits 220, Alex Jackson is taking that role.
Yep.
Someone we're familiar with, someone who's got a cannon. He threw a couple runners out when he was tested about a week ago, made us nervous, thinking, are they going to carry him and just dance around this Escar thing and hope he continues to mash at AAA? But they had options. Alex Jackson, not the most appealing option for the rest of us, but if Escar didn't come in and attack this every day or do the right things behind the scenes and translate them in front of everybody, then they could have defaulted to Alex Jackson, right? They could have scoured the waiver wire. Luke Maley's available. You know, he didn't make the Royals. They could have gone and grabbed him. Sometimes they do that anyway when they give a rookie every chance in the world, and then at the last minute, they're like, sorry, it's Ryan Yarbrough. He just became available. We had to make the move. So it took so much to get Escar to this point. I'm very glad that they opened the door and let us see. And it wasn't just perfunctory. Like, hey, the dream came true. The dream disappeared for a while. The dream was off the table to the point where you needed to start reevaluating, can we even attain portions of this dream? Can we get it to the point where I'm even in the arena being considered for this dream, and to see it fulfilled in full ahead of opening day, just about a year and a half after that lowest moment, is wild. So thank you to the Yankees for making the right move, and thank you to the Yankees for showing us all that you did.
The human element, Yankees, it works, baby. Come on. Sometimes. Every once in a while.
I mean, it reminds me of they had like Nestor and Trevino making the All-Star team in 2022, and they showed us the video of them getting informed, and it was like it was a kind of a similar feeling of like, who would have ever thought that these two people would have been deserving All-Stars this year? Who would have ever thought JC Escar would have gotten this opportunity? But they earned it. He earned it. And so I'm glad they are leaning into that human element. Nestor, by the way, does start the second game of the regular season on Saturday at Yankee Stadium.
That's fucking crazy.
Freddie Peralta, Nestor Cortez, Aaron Savale, 1, 2, 3 for the Brewers.
Nestor Cortez.
Kind of. Well, and also JC Escar from Hialeah, Florida. Literally.
Very cool.
Yeah, not a joke. Like, they're quite literally from the same place. So, okay, spring training doesn't matter. I am going to point out, congrats to the Yankees on some history. They have never before in the history of regular season New York Yankees baseball, hundreds of years, blown a 7-0 lead in the 9th inning with 1 out, nobody on base. Never, not one time. And there it was in Saturday's game. And it went away quickly. Eric Raiselman, who's supposedly a key piece of our bullpen's future, gave up a good majority of those runs. You'll never see a funnier, worse loss than that in the history of baseball. If that happened in the regular season, I would drink gravy. I would eat glass. I don't know what I would do.
What kind of gravy?
That's the problem. Like, gravy is delicious, so maybe I need to go harder on my own. But it just feels like
it would make you sick though if you drank enough of it.
It just feels so. If I ever watch the Yankees blow a 7-0 lead in the 9th inning with 1 out and the bases clean, I would want to damage my body. I would feel like I would want to punish myself like a monk. You know, like the guys from the Da Vinci Code who whipped them. I would be like, I care about a team that did this. Okay, great. I'm an idiot and I deserve to drink gravy.
I did think about it, and the Phillies did this against the Mets. Was it last year or the year before? They did this in the regular season. That was agonizing for Phillies fans. So the fact that we even had to, getting these alerts was funny. I just kept looking down at my phone, and I was like, oh, cool. Oh, okay. Oh my God. But yeah, absolutely ridiculous. Can't have this in the regular season, guys. And so get it all out there in spring, because it better not be happening starting this week. 3 days.
3 days. Never do that again. But notably in the middle of that game, which again, I was like, you don't want to care about spring training, and then something like that happens, and you're like, wow, I actually cared about that. That sucked. Mark Leiter Jr., who's someone who was counted on to be a setup man last year, was absolutely not, was borderline off of the playoff rosters, and then had himself a moment instead. And that's good. I'm glad. Good for him. But he ended up getting some back stiffness, questionable. Is he going to be able to build himself up enough? We're going to have him at the start of the regular season. He threw a side session in secret about a week ago and said, I'm fine. And we go, okay, great. I hear you, but I've been told people are fine before. I was told Ian Hamilton was starting the regular season, on the Major League roster, and he ain't. He's still building himself up, even though he appeared over the weekend. So Leiter Jr.'s first game action since that bullpen session, telling me I'm fine. Okay, sure. Let's see how fine you are. Comes in that Phillies game in the good part before the bullpen ended up blowing everything. 13 pitch inning, struck out the side. No hits, nothing. Clean, 1, 2, 3, you're down. And the sinker, which was supposed to be such a weapon last year when they acquired him, like we heard this when they got Fernando Cruz. We definitely heard this when they got Leiter. Like, you're upping the swing and miss. This is an unhittable pitch when he's on. He was also riding a scoreless heater into his Yankees career when they got him last summer. And I was like, all right, I mean, I've never really seen it. I don't know what it looks like. Let's see it. And then Leiter Jr. showed up, and immediately I was like, I don't get it. I mean, good for him, but it was like a lot of like, this is a little slow and loopy. Like, is this the pitch that people can hit? Is this a different one? Was I sold a different guy? It was getting up to 94, the sinker and the split in this appearance. So disgusting. Diabolical. Yep. I mean, the kind of ruthless efficiency and clipping corners that I would expect from a top reliever. Finally, can you expect that with consistency every day? No, of course not. But very different than the person I saw trudge out from the Yankees bullpen down the stretch last year and into October. And finally, I was like, all right, he says he's ready. I agree. No more spring training for him. Bring this man north. I need to see that again.
We could be pleasantly surprised by Mark Leiter Jr. I'm not going to rule it out. It was just, very deflating. Again, this is all context perspective, right? Mark Leiter Jr. was one of 3 acquisitions at last year's deadline, and he was supposed to be a force in the bullpen, a unit that was lacking stability and was clearly getting tired and didn't have that late inning structure that you had hoped for from a contending team with how bad Clay Holmes was performing and with, all the other issues that had been going on. Thankfully, Luke Weaver stepped into the role. Thankfully, Tommy Kahnle emerged even more as the year went on. So it ended up not being as big of an issue as many people would have thought. But again, you traded assets for Mark Leiter Jr. You were hoping to get a bullpen weapon, and the Yankees didn't exactly have that. Now, I mean, it is funny to think, like, you look at the context of a starting pitcher, right? Like, Clark Schmidt is not going to be ready, even though he's throwing bullpens. Like, Mark Leiter Jr. has appeared in 3 spring training games. His first one was February 26th. His next one was March 6th. And then he just appeared on Saturday, March 22nd. He's thrown a grand total of 41 pitches this spring, and he's going to be ready for opening day. I guess relievers are a little bit different because it's short spurts and you don't have to worry about a starter having to go out after 3 innings and then burning the rest of the bullpen. But look, if he was that good in that outing, again, he threw only 13 pitches. 9 of them were strikes. He struck out 3 batters. If that splitter's playing and that's where he's going to get most of his outs from, then we are looking at a situation that is falling in the Yankees' favor finally. I think maybe many of us fans wrote him off after what had happened last year, again, because of what was expected of him and what was needed of him at the time of acquisition. But once again, that's a Yankees problem. That's Brian Cashman's fault for acquiring this guy and making him pitch 2 days in a row after coming off of a plane, instead of just giving him a day off, allowing him to shave in peace because he was a full beard guy, and not putting that type of pressure on him while he's being welcomed to a team that's contending for the AL pennant. So whatever it is, hopefully Mark Leiter Jr. has gotten a little bit more comfortable in New York. Maybe gets another game under his belt before the team heads north, so he's feeling a little bit more comfortable. But if he says he's ready, then he's ready, and we'll see him for hopefully this opening series against the Brewers, a familiar foe of his. So that could be fun.
I am excited. I'm such a sucker. I'm excited for opening day, even though I'm
excited. It could go terribly wrong, It could go terribly wrong. The Yankees are banking on a lot of rebounds. They're banking on a lot of performances that we necessarily haven't seen, and is mostly based on small sample sizes or simply the figment of our imagination. But that's what opening day is all about, baby.
It's a weird, we've touched on this so many times, but like Brewers, Diamondbacks, it's weird. Like Yankees are hoping for Ben Rice to be Giancarlo Stanton and Jason Dominguez to be the Rookie of the Year. It's weird. But you can at least, I would say they're at least going to be interesting, if not great. And hey, we'll find out. Maybe they won't be interesting. Maybe they'll be great, but completely uninteresting. It's also a possibility. But I'm getting that fever. I'm not as anxious as I was last year, just knowing it was the Juan Soto year. Like everything has to go perfectly. If you lose people to death now we've already lost people. Like, all right. So, I mean, it might be a death knell, but they're already gone. So what are you going to do about it? What am I going to do about it as a fan? Drink gravy? I don't know. I'll have to find out. It's this week, whether we want it or not. A quick note as well. It looks like the Red Sox are sending Masataka Yoshida down at AAA instead of the injured list. So shout out to us. I think we literally bullied them into doing that. Bullying works. I don't know what the mechanics of that are. I didn't know that he could be optioned, but I guess he can, and I guess that's what's happening. So we're not going to get Yoshida yet. We can't trade for him. I enjoyed the possibility. I would love for the Red Sox to DFA him so we could take on that money, but we won't.
This is disrespectful, is it not?
I find it to be disrespectful. I find it crazy, especially considering he is an 800 OPS guy who could DH right now. Rafael Devers has what I've been told is a bum shoulder and what is definitely a poor spring training and some pouting and murmuring, but they're going to run out Devers.
This is almost worse than the IL designation.
But at least it's technically legal.
Yeah, yes. At the very least, it's legal, but at the same time, it's like you're just keeping him away from the major league roster. Like, you're keeping him away from the major league roster. Fine, that was your plan, whether you were ILing him or not. But now he's just going to be playing with a bunch of people who are well below his talent level. For what reason? Like, I don't understand. And they have, again, a lot of injury issues. Like, Wilyer Abreu, like I said before, was sick and is still performing very much not well this spring because obviously I think he only returned to game action like last week. And then in terms of the Red Sox roster, let me just pull up my information here so I'm not incorrect. I mean, all of these guys are fine. Yeah, I mean, I guess they don't have that much injury stuff, but right now, their position players are Connor Wong, Carlos Narvaez at catcher. Then it's Bregman, Casas, Devers, Romy Gonzalez, David Hamilton, Nick Sogard, Trevor Story, Cedon Rafaela, Wilyer Abreu, Jaron Duran, Ref Snyder. Like, you can't find reps for Yoshida. It's very bizarre.
Yeah.
Someone's got to call. Someone's got to call them and acquire him. I don't know what, Again, I don't know why teams are hesitant to spend that much. It's not that much money. It's $18.5 million for a guy who can hit 270 with an 800 OPS. I don't know. Maybe we're scarred because we get a lot of below average performances from players, and a lot of it's been masked by Aaron Judge being an MVP and Juan Soto doing what he did last year and Giancarlo Stanton turning into a postseason maniac. But I mean, I would friggin' kill for somebody who can hit 270 with an 800 OPS, regardless of where they were playing. Like, I wouldn't care if he had to be sucked into the DH role. I wouldn't care if we had to sacrifice defense in left field because of it. Like, this is one of the crazier situations I've honestly ever seen in my modern baseball viewing.
It's crazy that the Mariners couldn't just come to an area where they were asking for Casas for all these pitchers. Like, they couldn't just be like, "We'll take on Yoshida's money. It's fine. That makes sense." It does make sense. You should have.
Would have been a perfect swap for Castillo too, because if they're looking to get rid of money, okay, you're not going to get rid of every penny, but now you're going to upgrade the offense and get rid of a pitcher that you don't want.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, 100%. And hey, hopefully they never figure that out. And by the way, Mitch Haniger, another guy that we can't afford. Who might have been helpful, but is available right now. But say $43.5 million over 3 years or whatever, double that on the tax, no chance. Brandon Drury also, we already had a poor experience with him. I know that, and so he's not top of my list for acquisition targets. But Brandon Drury has a fractured thumb. He hit 400 with some meaningful swing improvements and contact decisions this spring with the White Sox. And then he hurt his thumb. So I'm not adding that person. I don't want him on the Yankees. He won't be on the Yankees opening day roster. He's on the IL. So that is that on that opening day. Thursday, we will see you right back here, 2:00 Eastern. The game is at 3. The pomp and circumstance is happening while we're live on the air. We're excited to talk you through the final roster and the last things that the Yankees did. One more moment before we sign off. Just want to obviously say it's impossible to make Yankees content this week and talk about the Yankees without thinking about Brett Gardner and his family. The Gardners lost their youngest son. They lost him on Friday and announced it along with the Yankees on Sunday. He died peacefully in his sleep from an illness that is impossible to fathom for a 14-year-old. I never want to learn details of this. I want Brett Gardner's a notoriously private individual. I want his life to remain private as he needs it to be. We just need him to know that Yankees universe, every Yankee fan, anyone who ever watched him play is sending him and his family the most love that we can today. It's not something that anyone should ever have to deal with. It also bothers me when people draw fandom lines on this and are like, wow, I didn't like Brett Gardner as a player, but now you can't help but feel awful. We don't need to hear that from you. No. We just need to hear your sympathies. So this is horrendous, horrific, has nothing to do with baseball. Yankee fans stand behind Brett Gardner 1,000%, and all baseball fans do as well. But yeah, we're just sending as much love as we can.
Absolutely. Horrible, unimaginable. There's nothing else that really can be said. Thoughts and prayers with Brett Gardner and his family. Hopefully they can find peace soon enough, but you know that this is going to be difficult for the road ahead. And support from Yankee fans would, I'm sure, be greatly appreciated by him and his family. In moments like this, you need people to rally around you. So keep the support coming, folks. They're going to need it. And that's it for today. Opening day is Thursday. I'll be here with you. Will you be here with us? Yeah, you'll be here with us.
Yeah, I'll be here on Thursday.
Adam will be here on opening day. I thought Adam. We have some schedule conflicts in the coming weeks. I thought Adam would not be here for whatever reason, but he will be. So we'll see you on Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern, live right here. Maybe we come on earlier, depending on when the opening day roster announcement is. Yeah. Again, that's why you got to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel so you know when we're going live. Please, folks. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate you tuning in. Thank you for the support. Head on over to yanksgoyard.com. That's where all the content is. We're covering everything in between these podcast episodes, stuff that we don't even talk about on this podcast, keeping you informed and up to date with everything Yankees. So keep reading. We greatly appreciate your guys' support. Happy baseball. Last couple games of spring here, and then opening day, the start of a new season. Let's try not to complain too much at the onset, you know? We'll do what we're going to do our best. I promise you. Let's give it a month before unless they start like 0-12, then we could start getting mad. But if we got our regular bumps and obstacles in the road for the first 6 weeks, like that's what it's going to be. It's what there are a lot of new players on this team, a lot of moving parts and stuff. So we'll try to give it as much time as we can. We'll erupt in due time, but let's all collectively try to keep that alignment.
Yeah, I think, look, 2021 opening day, I just remember so specifically, they had like RISP issue after RISP issue. They had like a key runner on third with nobody out. He never scored. And it was like, yep, I remember this. And it just felt like such an omen. And it was. But this year, yeah, I'm going to give him a lot of grace. I'm excited to watch this weird band of sort of unexpected Yankees contribute and hopefully find their way. One of my favorite games of the entire 2023 season, which was awful, was when they went to Fenway and the Red Sox were flirting with potentially getting back to the wild card mix, but probably not. And Anthony Misavage and Zach McAllister beat them in the second game of the doubleheader or whatever. That was the best. So I don't want a whole season of that, but yeah, I'm willing to. I want to learn these guys. I want to learn Yerry De Los Santos. I want to see Ryan Yarbrough in action. Let's see what the hell happens. I will be here on Thursday. Again, set your notifications. Turn them on because we might be live at 2.
Set them.
We might be live at 2. We might be live earlier. We'll have to find out depending on when the info drops. You will definitely see us on Thursday, though. And until then, I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carannante. See you then, everybody. Yankees opening day. It's the best day of the year for some. Maybe it'll be the best day of the year for us. We'll catch you then.